Hello there, guys, and welcome back to my channel for our Champions League preview as Chelsea are to take on Juventus at Stamford Bridge tomorrow night in our bid, I guess, for topping our group. Of course, we lost the way at Juventus a fair few weeks ago now, 1-0. And hopefully we can rectify that and top the group. Well, we can't fully top the group tomorrow, but we can take an important step towards topping that if we do beat Juventus by, well, more than 2 goals or more, I suppose, because obviously it's head-to-head rather than goal difference. So, it's going to be an interesting one. There are a few very important other things to discuss. For example, the referee for Sunday's game between Chelsea and Manchester United. Of course, the press conference by Thomas Tuchel, because we just can't seem to fully get over our injury problems these days. So hopefully, that can resolve itself over the next few days. But there are still a few things that we need to discuss today. And of course, we'll talk about the game itself in depth, previewing that from both our own perspective, but also talking about Juventus, who have kind of an injury crisis themselves, in all honesty. So we'll discuss all of that. And to do so, we are joined by 3 very, very special guests. Of course, first and foremost, by Mr. CFC Gem, as it says, host of GNA TV. Link to his channel is down in the description below. Gem, first of all, thank you for joining us, as always. How you been, mate? Hope you're well. And you excited for tomorrow? You confident?
Yeah, I'm excited. First of all, thanks for having me again. I love coming over here now. It's been coming quite a regular thing. So, yeah, thank you for getting me involved in that. And, yeah, in regards to the game, we own one, didn't we, really? So I'm expecting a big performance. We need the points. If we want to finish top of this group, we're going to have to win. So it is what it is.
No, exactly that. Exactly that. Let's hope we can win. Clutch, how you feeling? Do you also reckon good chance we're going to win, or do you fear a repeat of the away fixture where it was like we were clearly the dominant team but didn't really create anything other than a very last-minute chance for Lukaku, created by who other than bloody Ross Barkley after a howler defensively 10 seconds after the start of the second half. So do you fear a repeat of that, or do you think we can make things right?
No, I think we're going to be fine. I think we got some key players coming back. I mean, Mason Mount, wasn't he missing for the first one?
He was.
For the first. So he's one of those players who's going to press higher up the field. I think he's going to be a little bit more key to stopping the when we just get pushed back for, I think, 30 minutes like we did the first time. And I think we'll be fine. We got key players back. I think we'll pull it out.
Fair dues. And Charlie, what about you? First of all, thank you for coming back. Of course, lovely to see you, mate. Firstly, hope you're well. But also, do you back what Clutch just said? Back that we can make things right, or you're slightly worried about tomorrow?
Well, firstly, mate, thanks for having me back again. Pleasure to be here as always. Really enjoy it. Yeah, look, it's not going to be straightforward. Obviously, Juventus have got a few injuries that should make it slightly easier for us. Obviously, we've got a few as well. But as we've seen in recent weeks in the Premier League particularly, we've managed to get by pretty well with some of our main players out. So, yeah, I think we'll be favourites for this game and we should be winning it. But at the same time, we've got to respect the opposition because they did beat us last time. So, we've got to give them full respect. But yeah, I think we've got enough to break them down and put 1 or 2 goals past them.
Sounds good, mate. Sounds good. I hope you're right. I definitely hope you're right. I'm just trying to get up this tweet I saw earlier where we have the confirmations of who Juve are actually missing. So when we do get to talking about that part, we are actually, all up to date and don't waffle. But before we get into Juve, let's talk about ourselves and let's talk about what Thomas Tuchel did, revealing the press conference today. Now, Romelu Lukaku has finally returned back to team training, full team training today or yesterday, whenever it was. But just after the press conference today, he was scheduled to have an appointment with the doctors and the physios to see how his body, how his ankle mostly obviously reacted to training. So we're not 100% sure as of now or as of when the press conference happened whether Lukaku will be in the squad. If he will be in the squad, is he ready for 5 minutes or 10 minutes, or can he even go maybe at 20 minutes? Who knows? But there is a chance he returns, but it's pretty much, guaranteed that he will not start, which is unfortunate, especially made extra unfortunate by the fact that Kai Havertz, obviously to us, us fans, at least I was, completely oblivious to it when he was subbed off alongside Mason Mount for Hakim Ziyech and Christian Pulisic in the last game against Leicester. He was actually subbed off because he was feeling his hamstring a little bit. So he isn't like fully out injured like Kovacic or Timo Werner was with a hamstring injury, but he is feeling it a little bit, and there is a doubt whether he will be able to be involved, let alone start. So that is obviously not ideal, because then we need to figure out who actually does play up front. Because sure, Timo Werner is back fit. That has been, again, confirmed, I guess, or reiterated, I suppose, by Thomas Tuchel, because of course Timo Werner was already in the squad against Leicester, but he hasn't played since picking up that injury in the home game against Malmo, which is a fair few weeks ago now. So is he ready to just go straight back in to start? And if he isn't, what do we actually do? So there's a few things to get to. Also, Roman Abramovich is back in London for the first time, as far as I'm aware, since 2018, which is good to see. But unfortunately, since doing the whole thumbnail thing and since the press conference, it has actually been revealed that he will not be able to attend the game tomorrow night because he has other things he needs to attend, some charity thing that he supports, which is fair enough, I suppose, even though I'm pretty sure we would have all loved to see him there. But as a reaction to all of that, Jem, let me go with you first. That a bit of a concern for you? Lukaku not ready to start yet. Kai Havertz probably not fit to start, and is whether Timo is fit to start, probably not. So then what? Does that concern you at all, or do you think we'll find a way?
The Kai Havertz one shocked me because I didn't know that until this second. So the fact that his hamstring, he's got a bit of an injury to his hamstring, does limit us. But at the same time, I didn't expect Lukaku to start. I'm not going to lie. If Lukaku was fit or ready, he would have been on the bench and he probably would have come on in the second half. I think Lukaku would probably be ready for the Manchester United game, which I think he would start. We have got Timo Werner and he hasn't played any games. But when you think about it, we don't really have many options. I can probably think we've got two options. You either play Werner up front and you play whoever you want off him, or you do what we did in the second half when we took Havertz off and you don't actually have a false 9 or a 9. And you just have someone like Pulisic and Cho and Ziyech just alternating up front, which didn't look too bad. And actually, as much as Ziyech does do my head in and has probably done my head in for a little while, he didn't do too bad. So maybe Tuchel's looking at that and thinking, actually, do you know what? There might be some new chemistry here because we have missed Christian Pulisic for a very long time. And we're not really too sure what players can link up with him well, play well with him. And maybe Tuchel's looked at that and now thought to himself, hang on, I've actually got another option here. I could actually play, Pulisic, Cho, who I want to see play more together anyway, because I think they're both very direct and their dribbling ability is very good. And as maybe a Ziyech, or maybe if it isn't a Ziyech, then maybe he goes for a Werner. I don't know, or a Mount. So I think he has the options. It's just like, it wouldn't surprise me if Werner didn't start and he didn't go for him, even though he's on the bench and he just done something random, like Pulisic leading the line and, Cho and Ziyech playing off him or something. So we'll have to see.
No, I agree. It's going to be difficult. Obviously, we will get to our predicted 11 or the team that we'd like to see play a little bit later on. But it's definitely going to be an interesting one what Thomas Tuchel actually ends up picking. We were in a situation, before the international break, where we always knew who was going to be our front three because they were the only three that we had available. So, now we're in a very different situation. Not because we have so many more players available, but a couple more and a couple missing in then who else is the option for exactly this position, which will make it interesting. Charlie, I'll go to you. Similar thoughts to Jem, or do you reckon we'll somehow have to find a different way about it? Does it worry you at all?
No, it doesn't particularly worry me. Obviously, it's always a slight concern when you haven't got a focal point at the top end of the pitch. It's always quite handy to have that. But I mean, we've shown in other games that we can get by with having kind of the three inside forwards, as it were, kind of all just floating about. And I agree with Jem. I would like to see Hudson-Odoi, Christian Pulisic kind of linking up in that top end of the pitch, and maybe even a Hakim Ziyech as well. I know he's not been kind of flavour of the month with Chelsea fans, and I've been very critical of him myself. But when he has played recently, he has done all right. And that, I know it was only one goal, but the link up with him and Pulisic for the goal at Leicester, and I thought it was pretty sharp when he came on. So I'm not sure that could be maybe some chemistry forming there between those two. So I would like to see a front three of Pulisic, Hudson-Odoi and Ziyech. But I wouldn't completely rule out him going with kind of a two up top with three in the middle. So maybe we just see kind of a two-man attack of Hudson-Odoi and Pulisic and then an extra man in the midfield possibly. But for me, it's not a massive concern. We've got plenty of options to deal with it. But yeah, it's always disappointing not to have kind of your main forward players available as such.
No, exactly. I tweeted about it earlier, obviously, when the whole thing came out about Kai Havertz, and I was like, maybe we will too. Maybe not quite a 3, like you just explained it, but more of a 10 behind a 2, like you just said, maybe behind a Callum and Pulisic, maybe a Callum and a Ziyech, which we have done before. I think away at City when we beat them in the Cup, that's what we played because usually you wouldn't expect Ziyech to be part of a front 2 or wide forward, but he's done it once before at least, so it is at least a little bit of an option, I suppose. But yeah, no, it's definitely going to be interesting. Clutch, what about you? How do you see it? obviously, like I said, we will get into more detail about it later. But is it a big concern without Romelu, without Kai? Because we found ways to win and play really well without Lukaku. But will we find a way to do it without Lukaku and without Kai Havertz? And someone replied to said tweet that I just mentioned and saying, well, how can we beat Juventus, their strong defense, with no real striker out there, which is going to be a problem. I was like, well, the last time we played him, we did have a real striker on the pitch. We only made one chance for him. Unfortunately, he missed that one. So, maybe having no striker is exactly what we do actually need to beat Juve more convincingly.
I think it's always a scary thought thinking when you don't have your two main strikers. But I was watching the training that they were doing about a half hour ago, and Rom was doing training today. So yeah. I do think he will be playing tomorrow. Do I think he's going to start? No. Which, that gives Thomas Tuchel a headache. But if any manager can kind of figure out a solution to not having the players. We have such an insane attacking squad that when Kai did come off and you did see Pulisic in the false nine, who's a guy who is 5'9", 5'8", and his speed and his ability to read and get into positions where he can get behind the defense, it doesn't necessarily scare me. The thing is, I think that only works if you have a player like Ziyech with him, who's going to whip that ball in. I don't think Mount's going to be able to do that. I don't think Cho is going to do that. So the problem is you're going to have to start Ziyech, but I just don't see Ziyech starting tomorrow. Over Mount. I think Mount 100% starts tomorrow because of, whenever he's fit, Tuchel just values that press that he has so much that it doesn't matter what the last performance was, his engine, his ability to press high up, Tuchel always goes with that. So I do think it's a concern, but if anybody's going to figure it out, it's going to be Tuchel. So I do trust him. And as we've been saying in recent weeks, whenever he puts out a lineup, it's never what we expect, but it always works in some way.
No, it does. And the Ziyech one is an interesting one because I'm not sure if either of you guys have heard, but post-game, after the Leicester game, he was basically talking about Hakim Ziyech in the press conference and saying, well, not only was he good, like Charlie said earlier, when he actually came on, Thomas Tuchel said he was actually very unlucky not to start because he had a really good and strong week in training, obviously not being on international duty these days because kind of fell out with the Moroccan national team manager. So he had a very strong week. And like I said, Tuchel said he was a bit unfortunate or unlucky not to get picked for the first 11. So I wouldn't totally put it past him, unless he had a bad day, 2 days of training since the game. I'm sure he's in a similarly high contention of getting a start as he was for Leicester, particularly coming on and playing as well as he did. So it is definitely going to be interesting. Let's talk about Juventus for a second before we get into their injuries and stuff. Let's quickly talk about how their season's gone, because if I'm not mistaken, I will just get my phone up just to make 100% sure if this is still correct. I feel like before we last played them, they lost their game of the weekend, and now they won their game of the weekend, even though it was 2 penalties against Maurizio Sarri's Lazio, and both penalties taken by their centre-back, Bonucci, which is like, how screwed is your squad if your centre-backs are taking your penalties? I know Ramos did that for Real Madrid, I get that, but Ramos did that for years, or it was at least always a backup to Ronaldo when Ronaldo wasn't playing, right? So that was strange. But maybe it's a better position for us to be in than the fact that they didn't lose the last game, but they're still not in a particularly great position in the league. They're only 8th after 13 games, 6 wins, 3 draws, and 4 defeats on 21 points, which is, to be fair, not like insanely far behind Napoli, who are the league leaders, but still 11 points, which is not exactly where you'd expect Juventus to be, especially now that they did already get rid of Pirlo, stop that same idea that we had with Lampard and they had with Pirlo, stop that after a year and got Max Allegri literally back, the guy they initially got rid of for Sarri, or did he leave? Who knows? But now they're struggling equally as much, which is exactly what's happening to Manchester United. You sign Ronaldo, Ronaldo himself does well for you, but he kind of ruins everything else. So now, especially when Ronaldo is then gone, you're kind of screwed, which is kind of the position that Juve in. And I know it's big for me to talk because last time we played Juve, we lost. But still, overall this season, it hasn't exactly been brilliant for them. Either of you guys have been keeping up with what's happening in the Serie A and caught anything of what Juve have done? Or more like just looking at tables and, judging from that? I'm just putting it to all of you.
I've had a little look. They've been. Let's be honest, they've been poor. Obviously Ronaldo gone out in the summer. They needed he wanted to go probably, but they also done him a favour, saving massively on the wages. Financially, they're in quite a few problems, so not a lot of investment in the squad. Obviously, got Chelsea legend Morata leading the line, and I mean Dybala is one of them that I think is a talented player, but we've been talking about him being talented for kind of years and years now, and he's not really pushed on to what he should have really become. He's still a handful, but I mean, for me, their best player by miles is Chiesa. He's a fantastic footballer. I'd love to see him at Chelsea, but I don't think that's how possible or practical that is in the next few years. But he's definitely their standout man. Morata, in fairness to him, obviously didn't do it in the Premier League, but in Serie A, La Liga, those kind of leagues, he does pretty well. The back line, I think we can get at them because Bonucci and Chiellini, obviously outstanding centre-backs, some of the best defenders of their era, but with pace, you can get at them. So perhaps not having the focal point might be slightly beneficial to us in the terms of that we got just 3 quick, pacey players just nipping in and around, and it'd be quite hard for those guys to pick them up. But yeah, I mean, they're nowhere near as good as they have been in the past, but they're still capable of doing a job.
No, exactly. It's an interesting one. I mean, obviously, Morata is quite funny. It's a weird one, isn't it, Morata? Because Morata is like, do excuse me if you can, by the way, hear drilling in the background. Some of the neighbours have decided to drill into their walls, apparently. Nothing much I can do about that, unfortunately. I did just get their squad list for tomorrow up. So before we get into the actual injuries, let's look at the squad list, I suppose. Cheers, Clutch, for sending me that. But it's weird. Like, Juve is just a weird team. Like you said there about Dybala, I think you make a good point. Dybala is also only just about back fit. Like, he was a doubt before the press conference today, which Allegri confirmed. He will travel. No one is quite sure, as far as I'm aware, whether he'll be able to start. So that's not ideal for them. So that's just in a weird position. I mean, you look at it, especially defensively, you think these guys must be amazing. I mean, Chiellini, Bonucci, they just won the Euros, plus add the league to that. So how can they not be great? But I mean, for example, number one, they're missing Chiellini anyway. But it's weird, isn't it, Jem? Any particular thoughts on Juve? Or should we just get into the injuries?
Well, I mean, I look at that squad and I look at Morata and Dybala, and it just doesn't scare me. When you think of who we've got in Christensen, Rudiger, and Thiago Silva, that should be well enough to deal with anything that they can do from the forward line. But in terms of the midfield, I mean, for me, it is Chiesa. And the last time we played Chiesa, we had blimmin' the snail Alonso playing against him. So this time round, we'll actually have Ben Chilwell, who actually has good recovery pace, even when he does go forward, to be able to track back and try and defend against him. And I think he's just an all-rounder better player anyway to come up against him. And him and Rudiger, between the two, should have enough. But, you know, you look at the first game when we played them in Turin, and a lot of the times I felt like if we'd have just upped our gear a bit more in that game, we would have won it. I just feel like we never did that. And we were so wasteful with the ball as well. It was like we were kind of the root of our own downfall in many ways when they got their goals, or even when they had, attacking instances against us. It was all because we kept giving the ball away. It wasn't like they were doing anything amazing. It was just silly mistakes that we kept making, which allowed them to create it. They got their goal. Fair dues to them. It was a stupid goal when you think about it, straight on the back of, I think the whistle went, didn't it, at half time, and they just doofed it up the pitch, and all of a sudden they'd scored. But, you know, we can't lack concentration like that against a team like this, because even though they're not in the greatest of forms, they still have certain individuals that will hurt you if you're not on your game. And I just think it's, again, down to us how we implement ourselves on them more than it is the other way around, because I do think they're going to set up to play, I say, a low block and a counter using Chiesa down the wings, hence why it's important that Ben Chilwell and Rudiger are obviously playing tomorrow for me.
No, 1,000,000%. Like they obviously need to be playing. That's without a doubt. I mean, Clutch, if you want to add anything in terms of Juve, please do. I will just get the injuries up on screen because, you know, I've let everybody look at the squad itself, but then obviously let's look at the actual injuries, because, you know, that's, well, if not more interesting than the actual available players as well, if you think about it. Especially if you're not, you know, too clued up on the actual Juventus squad, you might not, you know, realize which players are missing from that. But I mean, like I said, as you can see, Chiellini is out, De Sciglio is out. Well, De Sciglio, initially he was a right back, wasn't he? But then at Juve, he's kind of just been used at left back, but Alexander is fit anyway, so that's not the biggest problem. Bernardeschi is a decent player, even though he can't score goals to save his life, except for Italy. Ramsey, I mean, At least he can't kill anyone by scoring a goal. Sorry. And Danilo, I mean, again, as much as he's a player missing, they play Cuadrado at right back all the time anyway. So how much of a miss is it actually? So they, other than Chiellini, none of these, maybe Ramsey, none of these guys are starters. Maybe Bernardeschi. I'm not 100% clued up how often Allegri used him. I know Pirlo used him quite a bit last year, but I'm not 1,000,000% sure on how much Allegri used him. But Clutch, any thoughts on now that you see which players they have and which players they don't have?
I mean, I agree with the boys. I think Tuchel got a chance to see the first game, and I think especially when we started Alonso and Azpilicueta on the wings that first game, I think we've learned from that. James and Chilwell will be around again tomorrow, and I think that speed from James is going to be enough to deal with Chiesa. So I'm not too worried. Our defense is so solid that, like, yes, anybody like Chiesa can make something happen, but I do think we have the defense to deal with it. So, I mean, it doesn't change too much for me. I have a confidence going into this game. As long as we do what we do, they're not going to touch. They're not going to get in the goal.
That's the thing. We're thankfully in a position these days as Chelsea that when we know with how good we are as a squad, with how good of a manager we have, if we do what we plan to do, other than maybe City and maybe Liverpool and maybe Bayern, but we haven't tried that yet, we're going to pretty much beat everyone. But the question is just how close to our maximum do we always get? For example, in your away game, we didn't get as close to as we maybe should have done. Charlie, any reaction to the specific players that they have injured? Does that change anything? Or is it, other than Chiellini, pretty much the same proposition for us?
Don't really change anything for me. Look at those players are out. None of them really start. I mean, De Ligt's going to come in for Chiellini, you presume. So it's not exactly... It's probably a slight upgrade, you would say, now. So, yeah, I'm going to look at that. And for me, it doesn't really make any difference at all. Arguably, only one of those really starts, and Dybala's going to be fit anyway. So, yeah, no real change, to be honest.
Fair dues. To be honest, I'm not 100% sure, because didn't they play a back three when we played them? So that would have been De Ligt, Bonucci, and Chiellini, I guess. Let's see if they, change someone in at centre back, or if they play a back four.
They played a back four.
They played a back four against us. Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm looking at it. They had Alexandro, De Ligt, Bonucci, and it was Alexandro, De Ligt, Bonucci, and Danilo in the back four, and Chiellini was on the bench.
Yeah, I thought so.
Well, I guess now that I say it, Danilo did start against us when they beat us. So, maybe he is actually a bigger miss than us realised. Sorry for our ignorance. But, Jem, anything you want to add to that? Or shall we move on?
I think we can move. But to be honest, I hear what the guys say. I mean, I don't worry about any of them, to be honest. I mean, I don't think they would have made much impact. It's not like they're key players out on the bench like what we've got at the moment. We've got so many key players that could have been starting tomorrow that are out. So, yeah, nothing.
Fair dues. What was I going to say? I was just going to say something and now I forgot. Brilliant. Isn't that what you always love to see? Let's just move on to Chelsea, because there was a couple of interesting things that I heard today from Thomas Tuchel in the press conference, which I haven't mentioned just yet. I say a couple of interesting things. I'm just going to put it to you guys and see what kind of your reaction is in terms of, will that change anything about what we think the team is going to be tomorrow? So he was asked about Reece James, Benazir Kinsella, and was basically, could he be, or is he already one of the best wing-backs, full-backs in the world, blah, blah. And Tuchel was like, kind of irrelevant, doesn't matter whether he's the best, just keep improving, get better. And then he said it so with such emphasis, like, if he plays tomorrow. I'm like, so you're trying to take the piss, or is Aspi coming back in? Because, I mean, Aspi was literally the guy that messed up for us conceding that goal when we lost that Juve. I'm not saying, he will obviously do it again. Likelihood is the fact that he did it last time, chances of him doing it again are probably slimmer. But still, Reece James and Ben Chilwell are so crucial to us playing well. If they're even remotely fit, it shouldn't even be a debate to be had whether them two should start, right, Charlie?
Well, yeah, it's 100% agree with you, mate. They're our best two fullbacks, and for me, in big games like this, you can't be rotating the wing backs like when we need to win. And it's against a half decent opposition. By all means, when we get a bit further in, obviously every 2-3 days coming up, sort of in the next few weeks, then we can look at rotating those positions. But for the next couple of games, for me, Aspi, it shouldn't really be playing at wing back anymore. If he's going to play on the side, he plays in the back three. I think Reece James is so far clear of him now that he has to play in that wing back position. So Aspi, if he's going to play, needs to play in one of the back three positions for me. And then the other side, Alonso, yeah, he can come in and do a job, but Chilwell's going to be so much better suited for this game for sure.
You say for this game, probably every game, but
yeah, most games, yeah.
No, exactly. I do hear it, Jem. Maybe I did make you think I was going to pick you. I do apologize because I saw you.
No, I was just going to say we've got the 5 substitutions tomorrow as well, so that's obviously something that we have to bear in mind. And if I was Tuchel, I'd look at it and just say, look, play your strongest team, which means your wing backs play. I think it's going to be interesting to see what he does with the midfield, really, because obviously Jorginho went off with a bit of cramp, didn't he, or whatever it was. We thought it was a hamstring.
He's fine, though. He is fine. Thank you for reminding me. He is fully fine. It was just a cramp, not like a muscle injury. So Tuchel confirmed today he is fully fine. So
that for me still is a little, because I do think he's just been overplayed. Like, I wouldn't have started Jorginho against Leicester. I'll be honest with you. I would have given him it. Bearing in mind he played both of the games for Italy as well for international duties, and I don't know, like. They're all important, don't get me wrong, but could we get away with potentially not having Jorginho in the team? I mean, N'Golo Kante, I thought was awesome in the second half. He looked like his old self. We don't have Kovacic. Could we maybe put Ruben in there and just be a bit more progressive and attackive rather than be defensive and have Kante and Jorginho sitting and sort of holding the ball well? I don't know. I just think maybe we could get away with obviously we need our wing backs, but maybe not just doing Jorginho, because I don't know, I'm just a little bit worried because we haven't got Kovacic, and if he plays tomorrow and that little bit of cramp turns into an injury because he's just overdoing it because he keeps starting games, then becomes a bit of an issue for us going into Man United, and I think he needs to start Man United, to be honest, so we have to see.
It's an interesting shout because we kind of discussed something similar before the Leicester game, even though obviously that was before we actually saw the team. It was like, well, can Kante, with the way he's been going with getting small injuries and then being out again and then coming back and being amazing and then being out again, Kante is probably the one that is least, even though I know Jorginho picked up that cramp, but in terms of history, he's probably the one that's least suited to playing a Saturday and a Tuesday, because obviously now we have then Tuesday to Sunday. So whatever the gap is between the Juve game and the United game will be absolutely fine for everybody that is fit. But it's weird because you make a fair point on Jorginho as well, obviously arguably overplayed in the first place and then obviously picked up that little cramp there. So it's a tough one. It definitely is a tough one. For me, in terms of, because Charlie mentioned it there, in terms of Aspie, it's just the next game I want Aspie to be anywhere near wing-back is probably against Watford. I know Watford just beat United, but that's United under Solskjaer. It's a different situation altogether. But I think against Watford, Aspie at wing-back would probably be fine. But I don't want him there tomorrow, and I definitely don't want him there against Man United. So that is a tough one. Clutch, what do you reckon? Reece James, will he start regardless of how? It's almost Tuchel might have emphasized that if he starts.
Yeah, I think Thomas Tuchel was just playing a little mind game, like, oh, who are we going to play? Are we going to play our captain? I agree with you guys. I think the way we play our wingbacks, I don't think it's suited for Aspie anymore. I think Callum Hudson-Odoi, even though we don't really want him there, I think he is more suited to play there than Aspie is at this moment in time. To be fair, I think if both James and Chilwell are fit, they play. That's it. I don't care. Like, it's just, we've seen it go wrong when they don't, and we see so much what they bring to the team. I mean, Reece James has improved so much defensively. He is the best right back in the world, or right wing back in the world, probably at the moment. But as far as like the midfield goes, I mean, yeah, it is going to be tough because, I mean, Jorginho has been overplayed, and that's kind of when I was thinking about what I would think I would do. And it's like, but I still don't play Kante because Kante has to be there for Man United on Sunday. Like, that's just it. There's so many things brewing in the Manchester United game that is just going to, like, it's stacking against us. We're going to need Kante for that game. But as far as James, I think he has to start tomorrow.
I agree. But then again, hey, if Kante can shoot from distance and score screamers again, it'll probably be quite useful against a low block Juve. You never know. And Emil, not unfortunately, Kovacic is still out injured. But let's head over to that share screen quickly so we can actually start talking about our predicted 11, or rather the team that we would like to see, because predicting is all well and good, but can also be boring. We might get more interesting opinions out here if we talk about what we actually want to see. So on that very note, Jem, let me go with you first. Obviously, Mendy will be in goal. Let's just get that out of the way. But what's going to be your back three? Because Thiago Silva, 37 years of age, came back literally the day before we played Leicester, played and was outstanding. In my opinion, he was my man of the match above Kante because he was just so brilliant in every sense of the word. But again, he's 37. We played on Saturday. He only just came back from Brazil. Should he be playing tomorrow?
I think the importance of winning this game, yes. What I would do with him is probably look to take him off as one of the 5. So if we are 1 or 2-0 up at any point of the game, especially going into the second half, maybe just give him a rest. We're going to need him for Man United, but just remember, Man United ain't till Sunday. So we play Tuesday, Sunday's 4 days, at least. So, I think you start and play. If he's fit and he's cool and he's fine, I think he's another one that has to play. And I keep saying he's so integral. As much as I bang on about how important our wingbacks are, because for me, the way this system works is because of our wingbacks, for me, 100%. But when you think about what Thiago Silva brings to the team, the leadership qualities, the understanding, the everything, and you look at the opposition we're up against and the leaders they've got, because they've got a lot of the leaders, you're going to need them type of players on the pitch in a game like this. So I would start him, and if we can get 1 or 2 up and we're looking okay at the back, then take him off and throw someone else on and just give him a little rest. That's what I would do anyway.
Fair dues. And who would you pair along? Oh, triple? Not a pair then, is it, in a back 3? Who would you put alongside him? Is it Rudiger and Chalobah, Rudiger and Aspie, Rudiger and Christensen, who obviously somewhat surprisingly wasn't involved on the weekend? Yeah,
it'd be Rudiger and Christensen for me. They're our best 3 for me, and I actually want to see them against Man United as well, so it'd be them 3.
So, I know there is obviously the good gap between now and United, but do you actually think Thiago is fully capable of playing 3 big games in a week?
I think he's shut that. I don't really think he's given us a reason not to think he can't. The amount of times we've said, "Oh, he can't play games because he's 37." Have you seen how fit the guy is? Like he really does look after himself, and if he's fit, and you got to bear in mind the way we play the game doesn't really ask our defense to really do much, because we're always in control of the game. So he's never at the point where he's running around everywhere, sprinting around 100 miles an hour, trying to win the ball back. We're always sort of in control of the game. So from his perspective, I'm not saying it's a reason for him to just play, but I just think he's probably okay. Probably runs more for PSG or for wherever else he's played for than what he has under this Tuchel team. So I would just play him, man.
That is true. As long as they don't put Chiesa somehow in the middle and make, punting over the top balls and make him putting him in sprint duels against Thiago Silva, you're right. Yeah, no, it's a fair point. Let me go to you, Clutch. Would you go with the same back 3 as Jem, or would you rather be on the on the side of maybe better to give Silva a rest?
I would like this, but I don't think that's what's going to happen. I think it's going to be Rudiger, Christensen, and Aspie in the back 3. I think that makes the most sense. I think one of the things we know is when Thiago Silva is overplayed, he does get little niggles here and there where it's just, I don't want to risk him necessarily, because I think United is still on the weekend, and it is a long break, but I think it was too close to Saturday for Thiago Silva, especially since, it was surprising that he played as well as he did. And if you watch back the goal that Pulisic scored, and they cut to Thiago Silva because he was like one of the main architects from the beginning of that transition, and he looked gassed. He looks like he was like he had it at that point. So I think Aspie and Christensen will do the job, and I think you'll have that speed there in the middle with Christensen, and I do think that will probably be where we end up going. But then again, we haven't used Aspie since, what did I say the other day, Zenit? I don't know.
Right centre back, we haven't used him there since the Zenit game, yeah.
I think the strongest back 3 is this, and if Thiago Silva can handle it and then handle Man United, then go ahead, but I don't think that's what's going to end up happening.
Fair dues. That does make sense. Charlie, what about you? Obviously, I'll share my thoughts at the end, but do you back what Gemma said there? Or do you think it'd rather be safe than sorry with Thiago Silva, especially with, as much as all of us hate international breaks, like now with, Pulisic a little bit, but also with Lukaku and Timo Werner, they sometimes give you a period where players, if they happen to be injured, it gives them a period where they don't actually miss games for the club if they are out injured. Now there's no international breaks until March. If someone's injured, they're going to miss 3 games every week they're injured in. So, I'm not sure how worth it that is, but how do you see it, Charlie?
Look, I agree with the guys. That's definitely our strongest back 3. But for me, if Thiago Silva is capable, of playing both these games, then 100% let's play him. But for me, if it's one of the two games that he starts in or he plays, I think we've got to use him for United rather than this one. Because let's be honest, this game is not as important as the United game. We're going to qualify for the last 16, regardless of whether we win this match or not. So if it's a choice of Thiago Silva plays this game or United, he plays United for me. But at the same time, he's integral to how we play at the moment. The guy, just defying his age, his range of passing is very, very helpful to us. And I think he kind of holds that back three together. So I would like to see that. But I'd also like to see Trevor Chalobah play again as well. I thought it was fantastic on the weekend against Leicester. Obviously, probably bought in for his pace to try and counteract Vardy's pace as well. Could we see him being utilised to try and, cancel out the threat of Chiesa's pace? Maybe it's a possibility. But yeah, providing everyone's fit and kind of healthy and ready to go, I would probably go with that back three. But I'd like to see Chalobah in there. But yeah, I can't argue with the three on the screen really.
No, exactly. It's a tough one. Obviously, if they're all fit, I agree. As much as I agree with what Jem said, I want to top the group. But go back to last season, we topped our group and we were drawn a team that, at the time of getting drawn against them, was arguably more difficult than anyone other than Bayern that we could have drawn if we came second. So how much of a difference does it really make? And to finalize or to guaranteed qualify for the knockout stages, we just need a draw tomorrow. So obviously that means concede, less, I guess, if you want to make sure you get a draw. But for me, I would like, I'm going to have two Christensens here now. Unfortunately, that's not possible, as much as Lewis would love that. I think, and as much as I love Aspie, and I really do, I just think Chalobah has been so good whenever given the chance. Aspie hasn't played a right centre-back for too long to be picked over Chalobah anymore at this point, I think, because Chalobah has been nearly perfect pretty much every time he's played. So for number one, I'm very impressed by him. Number two, he's incredibly young. And number three, the more kind of experiences of big games like this he gets, the better he will get quicker. So I would probably like to see this, but obviously that's again me sitting here being slightly concerned about Thiago Silva. And obviously if Thomas Tuchel and the physio staff obviously say, no, he's absolutely fine, and Thiago himself say he's absolutely fine to start, of course I back that as well. But yeah, just to make it more interesting, because we've all agreed if Thiago's fit, he starts, blah, blah, and then Christensen's the other one. To make it more interesting, let me go back to you, Jem. Let's just pretend Thiago can't start, would that be the back three you'd go for, or would you have Aspie in there?
I'd have Aspie. I think we miss one big thing tomorrow if we do that, and that's just the experience and the leadership. And they have a load of that. If you look at the back all the way up to the front. I think Chalobah's playing very well, and he had a great game last game round. But for me, I just don't want to get to the point where it's like, you're heavily relying on him. And the thing with Chalobah is this: if Thiago Silva's playing next to him, I'm cool. I ain't got an issue with it. But when it's Christensen, who's not a leader, who's not a natural leader, I just worry that there's not enough leadership qualities at the back to get through a game like Juventus or even Man United. So I would play Christensen and Aspie and Rudiger, or that's what I would do if Thiago Silva wasn't fit, to be honest.
Fair news. I'm just seeing what Emma has put in the chat here. Let me just saying we were very unlucky with the draw at the time, obviously, with Atletico Madrid. You are right. All I'm saying is, for me at least, it's more important to beat Man United than it is to beat Juve, because if we come second, fine. But I need to beat United. Number one, because we haven't beaten them in God knows how long in the Premier League. Number two, because it can't be, we'll get to the referee situation and, this whole, they changed social, now they can't be having any of that. So if I have to pick one of the two, I'd rather draw tomorrow and beat United. But obviously, we want to draw both. Just quickly before we move on to the wing backs, which isn't really going to be a discussion anyway. Clutch, if Thiago can't start, is it those three? I know you kind of touched on it already, but maybe also in reaction to what Jem just said.
I completely agree with Jem. Chalobah's been fantastic, but Aspie is still the club captain. He is the leader of this team. You can tell when he's on the field, things are a lot more stable because he's leading, he's commanding. I think Jorginho does that as well, but at the same time, I think Aspie's presence there in the back three, especially with this back three, as Jem touched on, I think he will be a lot more stable and a lot more like level-headed for the other three back there.
I mean, I get all of you. I don't even disagree. I agree with what you're saying. I just think with the opposition we're playing, with them punting one long ball off the other and how we conceded, I'd rather have the taller guy. That's mostly it. You know, if they punt long balls to their wingers again, I don't want Aspie to be caught out by a stupid long ball again because Chalobah is just going to head it away. And Aspie might be those couple of inches too short. I know that's maybe a very limited view of football in terms of, if you're tall, you're going to be able to head the ball away. I know it's not as easy as that, but I just feel like that's the only threat I really fear of Juve if they have over-the-top balls and we slightly misjudge them. And with Aspie not having played right centre-back in a while, I just feel like Chalobah is going to handle that better. And I get the experience thing, but Chalobah and Christensen have played together. It's not like this would be the first time we've played in this three that we currently have on screen. But I get it. Hey, I get it. Charlie, help us finalize our decision of who we actually put on screen here. Chalobah or Aspie if Thiago Silva can start.
For me, I'd go with Chalobah, but also with Aspie. When did he even last play for us? Regardless of when he played right centre-back last for us, when did he actually last play for us? Like, it's been a good few games now. He hasn't featured at all, really. I know he's played for Spain a little bit, but for Chelsea, he's not played for a good few weeks now. So, I mean, I don't know. I can't remember when he last played for us. So, you know, I'm not saying he's
away.
Yeah, I mean, he's not
away, maybe.
I think it could be that, but he's not injured or anything. I wouldn't have thought. I just think he's out of favour at the moment, really. So I would go with Chalobah, but I could understand if Aspie did play for experience.
Fair dues. Because we have a 2v2 here, you know, I'm going to just put both. But Jem, what were you going to say? Go on.
I'll just say, this is his natural position. It doesn't, even if he hasn't had the minutes, like, you know that he's what you get from him. Like, when's the last time, like, when Aspie plays for me for Chelsea, he's probably the most consistent player on the pitch in terms of performance levels. Like, you know what you're going to get from him. You know that he's going to do his thing. Like, people, I'll get it if you said to me, I worry because, you know, of the pace element. Like, I will get that. So maybe over the top, getting caught round the back. But then I think to myself, who is he going to be up against on the Juve side of things? And who plays on the left? Sancho. You know, is he the quickest of people? I don't think he's amazingly rapidly quick. So it's like, you know, and Dybala, even if he goes out there as well, is he
how have you come to Sancho, mate?
Was his Sancho? Was his name Sandro? Sandro, sorry.
Sandro. I thought you thought
Sandro.
Sancho.
No. I mean Sandro. I was like, Sandro.
I missed it. Go on.
Sandro, yeah, you know, he's a good player, but at the same time, I think Aspie can deal with that. If Dybala goes out there, again, he's not going to beat Aspie in the air, and even with the ball at his feet, I think Aspie can contain him. And Morata, again, I don't, even if he goes up against Aspie in the air, again, I wouldn't panic. So unless you're worried about the corner element of it and him being in the box and not having enough height, I don't really see what the issue is with Aspie not playing, to be honest.
I mean, I don't know who was the Juve player that beat him to the header that led to the goal we conceded, but it quite literally happened the last time we played. I get what you're saying, and it's, like I said already earlier, the likelihood of it happening again is probably slim. But like I said, you know, we have a 2v2, I guess, on the Chalobah v Aspie, so let's just put both on screen and see what Tuchel goes for, because in the end, whatever we put on screen, it's not going to be the be-all and end-all anyway. Ladies and gentlemen, by the way, which I haven't told you yet, be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. We're on the road to 15,000 subscribers, so get subscribed. Every single new subscriber does count. It does mean a lot to me, so get subscribed. We massively appreciate it. And smash the like button for me. We definitely don't have anywhere near enough likes, so go down below, hit the like button. It's no idea what color it turns it these days. YouTube's being weird. Whatever platform you're on, whatever settings, dark mode or not, you have on. But just click it. Doesn't cost you any money, barely cost you any time, so please do it for me. I already filled out the wing backs here on screen because might as well. We kind of already discussed it anyway, but I presume we are all in agreement that it should be those two, right? I mean, anyone just jump in, but let me go with you first, Charlie. Might as well.
Nothing to add on that at all. To be honest, like, it's fairly obvious. Unless they're unfit, they pick themselves at the end of the day. So yeah, simple as that, really.
There you go. Clutch, you as well.
Yeah, I agree completely, and I think Chilwell's corners are going to be also a key thing.
Very good point. Very good point. And Jem, obviously, like I said, we touched on it already earlier. I presume you agree as well.
Yeah, nothing. No, yeah, there's not much more to say, is there? They're our best and only guys that can play in that position. I mean, we have got Alonso and Aspie, but let's be serious. There's levels to this. So, no, these are the best.
There really is. There really is. It's weird because that's one of the reasons, by the way, why I really want to keep Rudiger. Who knows how possible it is, even though Tuchel sounded not as, lack of confidence as I expected him when talking about this Rudiger situation post-game after Leicester. That's why I want to keep him, because I need us to invest into wing-back backups. If we're going to keep playing wing-backs, I want better wing-back backups, and I need that. End of discussion. So if we can't expect us to sign 5 players every summer. So that's what I would like to see. But let's get to the midfield, because we touched again, especially Jem brought it up earlier already, in terms of who should we rest out of the ones that we have. And on that very note, I might as well stick with you, Jem. You said it there. For you, it might be Jorginho that probably should, or potentially should, be rested with the cramp that he picked up against Leicester, and obviously arguably being overplayed as it is, because he played pretty much every game for us so far this season. Played every game for Italy, including the Euros and every international break since then. So you make a fair point, but would you then just go with Kante and Ruben, or would it be anything different? You never know, Saul.
If it was my choice, I would have. No, sorry. If I'm good, I think Tuchel will play Jorginho. I think it'll be Jorginho and Ruben. That's what I think. I don't think Kante plays tomorrow. I think Kante plays against Man United. That's the feeling I've got with it. I might be wrong, but yeah, bearing in mind he has played a lot of games, I do think we could have a go with Kante and Ruben. But at the same time, I remember how they played against Brentford in the second half, and we had no midfield. So I don't know whether that was just because Kante just came back and he was tired, or he was, I don't know. But I don't know. I think Jorginho will end up playing, because I don't really think we have, even though we do have options there, and like obviously Saul Niguez, we shouldn't really talk about him, but he is a player of ours. He does play for Chelsea Football Club. He is there. I don't think, again, he's even an option. Obviously, Kovacic is not there as well. So I think it will be Jorginho and Ruben Loftus-Cheek. Fair
enough. It's going to be an interesting one. We'll get to, I guess we all think in a second. I'm never sure whether I should put RLC or whether I should put Loftus-Cheek. But anyway, obviously they played together for the last, whenever Jorginho had to come off against Leicester. But of course, we were 2-0 up at that point, or was it even 3-0, whatever it was. So a little bit of a different situation. But the reason why I see your logic, Jem, definitely. The reason why I wouldn't be the biggest fan of that, because if we play those, Ruben is the guy that needs to sit. And I think we need Ruben to break down their low block, because it adds to, especially now that we don't have Kai and Lukaku starting, having Ruben be able to push up into that front three to add a little bit of physicality, a little bit of height, a little bit of strength, I think could be very crucial in breaking them down. Even just watch the game that we lost. Once he came on, we were like twice as good as we were before, just because we had an extra body in there that was actually, a little bit threatening, and they seem to be worried about. And if Kante plays, we know Kante is never going to be the guy that sits under Tuchel. So if it's Ruben and Kante is still the one that pushes, and I want Ruben to be the one that pushes. But again, it's in a similar situation like we just discussed with Thiago Silva. Who knows whether he's fully fit or fully able to play? That all depends on the player himself, the physios, and obviously Tuchel himself. But Clutch, your midfield too. Jorginho, obviously, with what Gemma and myself just discussed in terms of overplaying him, is that a worry for you, or would you still go with Jorginho alongside who? Is the question, I guess.
I'm more worried about overplaying Kante. Kante is the guy who is seemingly injured every other game if you play him more than 2 games in a row. I'm going to go with Jorginho and Ruben. I think it is going to be key, like you said, to break that low block that they're going to come with us. Ruben pushing forward seemed to give them a lot more problems. Kante's just, he's not going to be needed for this game. We're going to need him more for United than we are today or tomorrow. So I think the better option is this. Now, you do have Saul, but, I think like Pius said last time we were on here, you think of Saul and you're like, it's just, he's never going to be picked to start. And I think Jorginho and Ruben are going to be the best pairing. Jorginho has been a little bit overplayed, but like I said last preview, I think he plays all 3 of these games. I think he plays a lot until Kova comes back. I think that's when we'll start seeing probably Jorginho get a little bit more rest. But at this time, I think this is the best 2 that we can go with for tomorrow.
Again, a bit like I mentioned earlier with Aspie, the game I want Jorginho to be rested in is against Watford. Just play Ruben and whoever else is fit, and play Ruben as the Georgie role against Watford will be fine. That's kind of my logic. But in a way, hello Jess, I hope you're well. In a way, I agree. If we're talking about fully predicted 11 and not what we'd like to see, just listen to when Tuchel speaks about Kante and just think about how often has Kante been fit and Tuchel didn't start him. How often has that happened? Barely ever. Can you guys actually hear me fine? Because I have a little thingy here showing me my connection is bad, so I hope everything's working fine. But yeah, like I said, that's my worry that he will just play Kante again. But I said this in the stream after the Leicester game and also tweeted during the Leicester game when he scored. I'm like, well, clearly I needed some shutting up because I keep saying against these teams where it's about breaking the opponent down, I don't want Kante in these forward roles. And then he obviously goes and scores a screamer. But if he shoots, I have much less of a problem with that. I have way more of a problem when he gets into those areas and starts passing because the amount of times he messes up those passes infuriates me. And that's why I didn't want to give him a 10 against Leicester. I know people had a go at me on Twitter, on this stream, on days after. I'm like, but even though as much as he was great and he scored that screamer, he still had those passes which annoyed me. And, even Tuchel was speaking post-game, not about Kante individually, of course, but saying as a team, the decision making in the final third wasn't as good as it could have been, and no 3 offside goals, but we could have we were so much better than Leicester. We literally could have done a San Marino to them and battered them 10-0. If we were fully on it, we could have absolutely torn them to pieces if we tried. I'm sure we tried, but if we tried that tad harder, which is the problem because at the same time, Kante was still amazing. But I kind of agree with what if it was just down to us, I kind of agree with what Clutch said. I want to make sure I don't want to risk him not being available against United because especially now with a new manager, who knows how they're going to play, who knows what Carrick's going to do in terms of how they're going to play. And I think Kante is probably most adaptable to whatever the opponent does to still play well. So, Charlie, what's your midfield 2 for tomorrow? And again, you can obviously say what you think Tuchel will pick, but like I said, more so what you would like to see.
First, I think Tuchel will go with Jorginho and Kante again. I think it's pretty hard to switch that to, given how well they played on the weekend. But for me personally, I think Ruben deserves to play. Hasn't started a game since Malmo away, which I think's a bit harsh, really. But
to be fair, given the result, like 3 games ago, isn't it?
Yeah, but given the fact that he's played really well, Tuchel obviously saying very nice things about him and stuff. For him, I think he's unlucky not to have started any games since then. I think this would be a good game for him to play in. I think we could do with his kind of, physical presence in the middle of the park, the fact that he picks up the ball and drives forward. That's his first kind of thing to do is to think about going forwards. Whereas, the likes of Jorginho and Kante, obviously more defensive minded, etc., which is fine. But I'm not sure we need both in there. So I'd love to see Ruben and probably Jorginho, just based on the fact that Kante's fitness is still kind of a bit hit and miss. And also, I just think European football suits Jorginho so well. I would like Jorginho and Ruben, but for me, I just think it's going to be standard. It's going to be Jorginho and Kante. I think that's what it'll go with. But 100%, Ruben definitely deserves to play. And I think all of us would probably love to see him start.
I agree. I completely agree. And I will also say, again, Jem made this point a couple of times earlier, that the fact that we have 5 subs, if we were to go 2-0 up, say, within the first half, we can very easily just bring Kante on for Jorginho. Both of them play, say, a half. And then Ruben for the second half just plays the more defensive role and Kante does the other thing, like, we're used to from him. So that would work. But obviously that would require us to actually go 2-0 up early in the game and not leave it late, because then we can't make those subs, which is often our problem. As much as Tuchel always complains about only having 3 subs in the Prem, whenever we play Champions League, we usually, except Malmo at home, we haven't killed the opponent early enough to actually make much use of having those 5 subs, because even the Malmo away game was close. So because we didn't kill it, we couldn't use all those saves. Harvey Vale was on the bench and he couldn't come on because we couldn't take up bloody chances. So there's all we can. Obviously, Juve is a different proposition to Malmo altogether, but still, ideally, we can just make that sub and then everybody's happy. In a sense, everybody's happy. But let's move to the front 3. As much as we kind of touched on it already a little bit earlier, it's still going to be very interesting. It's also like, not only could it be like this, it could also obviously be like this and pushing these guys up a bit more. Now, the similar problem to what we have had in a couple of other positions now, what we don't know is Timo Werner actually fit to start? Now, if he is, I strongly presume he will be that guy. As much as I'm not the biggest fan of him in that role, I presume that's going to be what Tuchel picks anyway. but I'm not sure. But the same situation goes, and I know we discussed it obviously before the last game, and Jester was telling us that he thinks Pulisic is absolutely fine, and he seems to be playing completely pain-free now, which is brilliant. So you'd expect him to be fit to start and play for at least an hour. But again, we're not Tuchel, we're not the medical staff, we're not the player, so how sure are we? I guess if neither of them are fit, the only debate is, does Barkley start or not, because the other ones we know. But let me go with you first this time, Charlie. What would be your front three, and what kind of lineup would you put them in? Like, would it be a 2-1 or would it be a 1-2?
Look, for me, I think I'd love to see Christian Pulisic play up there. I'd probably like to see him kind of floating about, maybe start as the most advanced forward, but then I could obviously kind of interchange with the other two. I think he's shown before the international break, getting a few minutes and then getting through the international break as well. He's in good goal scoring form, scored for the US against Mexico, and then he got minutes against Jamaica, and then more minutes against Leicester with a goal as well. He looks quite sharp. So for me, I see no reason why he doesn't start this game, and he's in a much better position to be starting than, say, Timo Werner. So for me, I'd go Christian Pulisic, and then the other side, well, other two positions, I'd go with obviously Callum Hudson-Odoi, who's been fantastic in his recent run, fully justifying his decision not to go with the under-21s. I think that's paying dividends, the extra work he's doing on the training pitch.
100%. Thank you for saying that. 100%.
And then, to be honest, the third one's tough, because I think Tuchel will pick Mason Mount, but for me, I'll probably go with Hakim Ziyech, just because of the link-up he had with Pulisic. He looked pretty sharp when he came on. He's not been out with the national team, as you mentioned before. He's not been struggling with his fitness like Mason has with his dental surgery, etc. And I thought Mason was probably our worst player on the weekend. Nothing against him. It was a slightly poor game from him, and maybe he could benefit with kind of just coming on. So I'd probably go with Pulisic, Hudson-Odoi, and Ziyech. But again, if Mount played instead of Ziyech, wouldn't really have any complaints.
I see that. I definitely see that. But then just to quickly clarify, would you like to see Ziyech in this role and then have it front wide 2 forwards? Or would you like to see it like I have on screen now?
I probably prefer it how it is on screen, but then obviously it's got the adaptability to switch to that if it's required, really, because you can go as a 3, you can go as a 1 or a 2. So yeah, I mean, either or really. But yeah, I think we'll start with that first.
Fair dues. Let me go to you, Clutch. Obviously, you know, slightly more affection towards Christian Pulisic than maybe us others have. So do you think he is ready to get this start now? Or do you think, as much as we talk about how Ziyech or Mount, is Pulisic not going to start anyway, and it's just going to be Mount instead of Pulisic, and then Hudson-Odoi as the wide forwards with Mount as a 10? What do you reckon?
I think he is fit enough to do a start, but at the same time, I think the guaranteed 2 in this game, I think it's Hudson-Odoi and Mount, because like Conte, whenever Mount's fit, he plays. That's just how Tuchel does it. And my question is, would Tuchel see Mount and Pulisic being that false 9 with Mount on the right? Does he see that as a good idea? I would prefer it the way we have it on screen. If we're going to do Pulisic as a false 9, Ziyech has to be there. I don't think Mount can, but I think Mount will play. But I also think Pulisic will start up top.
It's a tough one, isn't it? Because before I put it to Jem now, there's 2 ways of thinking about Hakim Ziyech here. He came on against Leicester and was very good. But the last time we played Juve, he had an absolute stinker. I know it was away from home, and I know it was a slightly different situation of form for him personally, but still, it's like, which one do you value higher? The last game against a completely different opponent, when he only came on when we was already 2-0 up and played well, or do you give more kind of importance to the last time he actually started against the very same opposition and was awful? That's what I'm not sure about, because for me, Melly said it in the chat as well, I would like to see that Ziyech Pulisic link up again, because that worked, and I would like to see any sort of link up that works. I'd like to see how that develops and see if that's something that works consistently, or if that was a one-off. And I think if you then only play it again in 3 games, then you have equal amounts of information, whether it's a one-off or works consistently. So that's why I'd kind of like to stick with it. But like with Ziyech, judging off how that went against Juve, we didn't have Mount against Juve, and we saw how we played. I'm not saying Mount was good against Leicester by any means. And I know Jester is probably already typing how much of an idiot I am. I'm joking, Jester, but I just think our whole press idea doesn't work as well without Mount. I will say Pulisic helps it. Callum's getting better at it, and to be honest, Ziyech is very good at the pressing part as well. In all honesty, but I just feel like there's always that little extra intensity missing from our team when Mount doesn't play. I just feel like it is. I'm not saying this is necessarily right, but I always feel like it. But I don't know whether, because I'm not sure if I'd pick him over any of these three specifically on current form. But then at the same time, when like the fact that Mount obviously played the game, even though he wasn't great, should mean he's now fitter and fresher and sharper to actually play this game. So because obviously he came back from being out for a while, the fact that he did get those minutes means he's now more ready for this game. So from that, judging from that logic, you can't say, oh, but he was bad last game, so he will be bad again. Likelihood after coming back from being out for a while, whether it was because of dental surgery or injury, that first game back is never going to be as good as the second game back. So from that logic, Mount should be better than he was against Leicester, so then he has to start again. So it's a tough one for me. If I'm going to be quick, before I put it to you, Jem, sorry. If I'm being completely what I think Mr. Tuchel will start, I think he'll go like that. That's what I think he'll do. Not saying that will work or that will be the best thing to do, but I think that's what he will do. And then bring Pulisic on, depending on who plays the worst, or is Mount ready to play 90 now, judging on that. But it's honestly a tough one for me, and I'm really just not sure. So, Jem, why don't you help us out to kind of finalize what our front three, what we want?
The crazy thing is, it could be any. There's so many different ways we could play this, and I'm probably going to say it a little bit different to you guys, but I don't want to see that, because Mount and Ziyech, they'll both drop deep. We'll have nothing going forward. It won't work. We've seen Mount and Ziyech play together, and for me, it just didn't work whatsoever. Playing off Lukaku actually as well, he had no support. He was isolated, and all that will end up happening is, even though we're good on the press, when we have got the ball, playing it out from the back, and we find our wing backs and we go move into midfield, it'll be Callum Hudson-Odoi trying to make the runs behind the back, and Mount go into the ball along with Ziyech, because they don't like always running behind the defence. They want to pick the ball up deep and link play. So I don't think we need them three. I would like to see Pulisic, Ziyech and Hudson-Odoi. However, I think there's a good chance it could be two other ways. Only because you said Timo Werner's fit as well. Now, it wouldn't surprise me if he did start and he played Pulisic and Mount with Werner. So you had Pulisic, Mount and Werner. Or you could even do Hudson-Odoi, Pulisic, Werner, which would be quite interesting as well. But I don't necessarily think Hudson-Odoi, even though he is in form and he should be playing and he's doing really well, I don't actually think he's a certified starter. And that's not just because of the way he's playing. He's played a lot. I mean, I say he's played a lot actually, because we've only just come back from international, but he played a full 90 against Leicester. You're probably then going to ask him to play probably near close to another full 90 against Juventus. And then for me, he has to start against Man United as well. So it might be a thing of that Cho comes on later if we're struggling in the game and we need a goal, if it's 0-0 still and we can't break them down. But I think Werner, Pulisic, Mount may work. And what might happen is that you'll see Mason Mount come in deeper and Pulisic and Werner be the two that push further up together. Or if not that, you could maybe change Pulisic with Ziyech. This is what I'm saying. There's so many ways you could do it. You could do Pulisic with Ziyech, and you could see what they done last season, where Werner and Ziyech linked up quite well, playing as a two up front, and they were setting up goals with each other. So I don't know. I'm lost of it. I've probably thrown in about another 3 different ideas to what you just said now. So
no, you are right. Like, you make a good point. Obviously, if Werner is fit to start, I think we all agree that he will start and will be the striker guy, because Lukaku and Havertz are out, and that's usually whenever we didn't have Havertz last season. Obviously, before we ever signed Lukaku, he didn't pick Giroud, he didn't pick Tammy, he played Werner up front. So likelihood is he will probably do that again. But this, I wouldn't have a big problem with. Whether this is now Callum or Pulisic, doesn't matter, but doesn't change the whole idea. I wouldn't be opposed to it at all, to be honest. And I just quickly, just because I spoke to Pice about this a couple of days ago, this by Brian. When I watched the highlights just shortly after the game against Leicester finished, if it ever actually shows up, please do something, computer. Thank you. That lovely ball by Ziyech to Pulisic when Pulisic put it just wide because it was pushed over by the defender. I still think it looks like he scuffs it. Like, if I look at him, the way his body is, he does not move his body like that ball was meant to get off the ground no more than 2 yards and come back down straight away. He did not hit that intentionally that way. No chance. He was going for that far post like he always was. And the ball is still great. And sometimes, hey, we've seen some of the greatest goals involved in history of football have been more in the corner than intended, or less in the corner than intended, or whatever, or slight misconnections. That doesn't take anything away that the pass was great and useful, but I still think he scuffed it. Anyway, just quickly because Pi's telling me no way. So anyway, so now because we've changed it to like, what if Werner starts? I'll go back to you, Clutch. What if Werner starts? What's then your front three?
I don't think Werner and Pulisic work very well because they both like to occupy that same position on the left-hand side. Now, if you keep Werner on the right-hand side like he did, I can't remember when he did it, but when he was playing more on the right side before he got injured. Yeah, against Southampton, I think his low crossing could be amazing for Pulisic. If you play it like that, I'm fine with that. Do I think Werner's going to start? He hasn't played in almost, a month now? There's zero chance I think he starts.
More than that.
Yeah, I don't think match fitness is a thing, and that's why I'm surprised he didn't get any minutes against Leicester. I'm surprised Ziyech came on and not him, because, at some point you're going to have to give him some minutes to get it back into his legs, an entire, a game fitness. So I don't think he has a chance to start. But, at the same time, Tuchel is a very different monster when it comes to how he does things. Maybe he just says, hey, this is a one-off. Werner can do this all day long. He can run all day long. But if we are going to use Werner, this is how I'd like to have it. But I don't think he's going to start. And I don't think Cho's not going to start.
It's a tough one. It's a tough one. And again, just quickly back to a completely different discussion. Yes, Footy Zaha, he was doing it with Ajax. And I didn't say he can't play that pass. I'm just saying on this occasion, he didn't intend to play the pass. That doesn't mean he can't do it. Those are two very different words to use. Not being able to and not intending to. It's very difficult for me to judge. I know that Jem needs to head off in just a second. I'm not sure if he has another 5 minutes for us or not. But just in case you don't, hit me quickly before we finish this lineup off with Charlie and then quickly touch on Anthony Taylor. One thing, first of all, any reaction to Anthony Taylor refereeing Chelsea versus Manchester United next Sunday? And number two, a score prediction for tomorrow, please, mate.
Well, you know my thoughts on that. I don't know if you actually know my thoughts on Anthony Taylor, but he's someone that I'm not very fond of. I'm sure most Chelsea fans are not very fond of him. A little bit weird on the back of Ollie getting a sack. I hope we slap Watford. I hope every team in the Premier League slaps Watford now for doing that, to be honest. 2-1 was fine. Why couldn't they just have 2 goals? Why did they have to get another 2, But look, he reffed the game against Brentford and he was cool. And that was because we didn't really give him anything to actually say. I just think we just got to play our game against Man United. If we do that, don't give him a reason to want to get involved. He's just a ref that wants to get involved in every little thing. Do you know what I mean? Just don't give him any excuse to get involved or book you or whatever. So, I'm not too happy that he's reffing this type of game. But at the end of the day, we just need to just play our game and try and limit him getting involved is what I would say. In terms of the scoreline, if we start like we did against Leicester, which was very good for me. I always say about how important that we start, because if you look at the way we've started in past games prior to Leicester, I don't think we start very well. I think we're quite slow a lot of the times until we start cooking. So if we start like we did against Leicester and we can get a goal in the first, say, 20 minutes, then I reckon we'll beat them 2-3-0. I think we'll comfortably beat this Juventus team if we play like we did against Leicester. If we don't, and we're slow and we're lethargic and, we're not moving the ball quick enough, then we could easily draw this. It wouldn't surprise me if it was a 0-0 or a 1-1 if they got a goal. But at the same time, I expect us to continue in the form that we're in. So I would say a 2-0 for me.
Fair dues. I back it. Jem, appreciate you a lot for coming on. I'm sure we'll speak to you again soon. Take care. And
thank you, guys.
Check out his channel. Link is down in the description.
See you later, guys. Take care. Thanks for having me, Laurenz, as well. Yeah, take care. So make sure you smash the like button, guys. Keep subscribing as well. I'll see you in a bit. See you later.
Care, mate. Cheers.
Bye.
Sorry, Charlie. Just had to finish that off quickly because I knew Jem had to go. So just asking you now, finally, if Werner does start, is what we have on the screen right now what you'd like to see? Because Emil says something here, which I'm not sure how much of a fair point it is. I'll ask you now. Werner doesn't make sense against Juve because he doesn't have the space to run in behind, which makes him great. We all know Timo Werner's touch is not the best. We know his dribbling is not the best. Let's not even talk about his finishing. But what we know is great is his movement and using space. But will Juve even give us any space for him to use?
Yeah, this is the problem, isn't it? Juve are probably going to come, not part the bus, but they're going to sit deep, defend well. I don't think there's going to be a lot of space in behind. So then, if Werner's not running in behind, what is he offering? So it's a difficult one there. I mean, for me, if Werner does start, I'd probably prefer to see Pulisic and Callum either side. I just feel that Mount is probably still finding his feet a little bit. And yes, we don't play Mount. We miss out on our press a little bit because he's very good at the press. But then equally, I just feel in attacking positions this season, I feel other guys have probably offered a bit more than Mason has at the moment. So if Werner plays, I'd like to see Pulisic and Callum either side. But I think ultimately, personally, I think it'll be Pulisic, Hudson-Odoi, and Hakim Ziyech. That's what I'd like to see. But whether Tuchel go, there's so many options. He could surprise us, and Kai Havertz will end up playing. So
to be fair, Kai didn't train today. We found out, so the likelihood of him starting is probably slim. But yeah, no, you're right.
You can't rule it out. But yeah, no, there's so many options. It's almost impossible to pick. But yeah, for me, Pulisic, Hudson-Odoi, and Ziyech would be the three that I'd like to see. But I wouldn't really complain too much about anything, really. So
except Barkley starts maybe. Although I thought Barkley was great against Burnley. It's not just be
it was all right. But yeah, there's Burnley and then there's Juventus. So I think Barkley probably just keep his place on the bench and we can give him a run out if it's comfortable.
Exactly. No, I do get it. Just because sticking to what Emil said here, alongside what you just said, why I like the idea that we kind of have on screen now is I'm really not a fan of Werner as a proper 9, especially against the Juve team whose centre-backs are so strong. I'm like, what is he going to do? We're never going to have enough space for him to run off straight in the middle. So if we play this 2, he can run down the channel between the left back and the left centre-back. Pulisic can run off between the right back and the right centre-back. And then we see whether a Ruben pushes up, a man pushes up, or even if, say, Ziyech plays there. Or theoretically, if you want to, just one last thing. If we change this to Callum and then do that. I know Pulisic was the furthest forward last time out, but he can still be the guy that gets in there once Timo is out here, so that doesn't really change. I wouldn't be opposed to this, I can't lie. So neither Ziyech nor Mason. I think that would work quite well. Can't lie. Maybe a little bit attacking, but again, we have 5 subs. Go out all guns blazing. Get 2, ideally 3, but let's be realistic with us, especially when we don't have Lukaku. Let's get 2 goals, and then we just go with it from there. I think that 3 would work very well against a team like Juve, the way they're going to play. But I honestly have no real perfect preference. Just to make it a little bit easier, let's presume Werner can't start because that just makes things too complicated. I know the Ziyech thing, but even if it isn't, whether you put Pulisic on the right or Callum on the right, don't really care. I mean, both are better off the left, so who's to say who's less bad on the right, I guess. But all this, I don't really know. Ladies and gentlemen, I have no idea. Hence why we're just going to have to finish it off here and see what Thomas Tuchel actually picks tomorrow. So before Pice is in the stream, what's he said? Interesting team. There you go. Big up, Pice. You missed us basically not agreeing with you saying that Ziyech scuffed it. I say us. Me and Brian, that's it. But let me actually get this quickly off the screen and ask you boys, before we get into a score prediction, any reaction to Anthony Taylor being the referee for Chelsea against Manchester United next weekend, Clutch?
I mean, it just seems like it's brewing for us to have another typical Man United game where we don't win it. It's just, I don't know how that guy still is able to ref for us, but I mean, new manager. Even though I'm not really afraid of Michael Carrick as a manager, but there is that new manager boost, and I do think United are a good team when it comes down to it. But also, actually, I don't think Maguire's going to be there. Is Varane available?
No, he's suspended. Yeah, he's suspended.
Is Varane hurt? I don't know. If he's not, then it's going to be Bailly and Lindelof, and that doesn't scare me at all. I think that will be a feasting moment for Rom when he comes back on Sunday. So, I mean, Anthony Taylor's a big bust, but, like I said, if Chelsea are the better team, they are defensively so stable that even Cristiano Ronaldo shouldn't have a day in the age that he is. But then again, Thiago Silva's 37, so...
I mean, hopefully I'm not jinxing it, but Thiago Silva, but Cristiano's so deep in his pocket, he'll come out on the other end of the fucking planet. So, do you know what I mean? But, we'll see about that one. I mean, the Anthony Taylor one, before, as much as I've slagged him off myself, with the last 3 games he played with Anthony Taylor, was drawn 1-2. And that draw was against Liverpool. Now, should that red card have been a red card? Maybe not. But is that as much Anthony Taylor's fault as it is the rules' fault? 1,000,000%. Because on the rules, he probably is right to send James off. Just on using his actual human brain, he wasn't right. But we have to think, like players are judged by their managers, referees are judged by people above them. I'm not trying to let Anthony Taylor off for past mistakes. But I'm just saying, if Harry Maguire isn't there, who's going to foul us that VAR can ignore? So, what's Anthony Taylor realistically going to do? I think we're going to be fine. And I think it's important that us as fans, because I've always believed that the players, they see everything that, is big on social media in the Chelsea football Twitter scene. Let's not make it too big of a thing that, Anthony Taylor was screwed. No, because that puts the completely wrong mindset in all the players, heads. We will beat them regardless. I don't care who the referee is. I don't care if no referee turns up or if it's Anthony Taylor and Mark Clattenburg together. We're so much better than Manchester United. I want us to win. So I want that to be the message to the players. Just win. I don't care who the manager is, who the referee is. But Charlie, I get on the back of what I just said, but also in general, Anthony Taylor being a referee. The thing that makes it weird is that he is from Manchester. That he's allowed to referee any Manchester team is the wrong part. But if he refs us, Brentford, that's one thing. Us against Manchester United is a whole different conversation, which should not be happening, in my opinion.
I mean, I'm not too fussed about him reffing at the end of the day. I mean, obviously last few games, we haven't lost any when he's reffed. But I will say, I did see before we come on, the last 2 times that he's reffed us against United, we've actually lost both those games. I mean, I don't know if it's anything to do with him or whatever, but that is the fact. We have lost the last 2 games he's reffed. I think we don't need to worry so much about that. I just think we need to make sure that we don't give him decisions to make in terms of critical decisions. So, try and just keep our cool, not give away stupid fouls, penalties, etc. like that. Just try and keep it really simple. But ultimately, look, we're a much better side than they are. Yeah, I know you could look at it and think we didn't beat Ole's United. Now it's Carrick in charge, not really much different, but arguably probably worse. But then it could be a United thing to perhaps give us a difficult game. But look, if you're being realistic, I don't think the ref makes too much difference, providing we don't give him anything difficult to do. So yeah, I'm not too fussed about Taylor being ref. I think it's just a bit of a smokescreen, really, and people like to make sort of quite a big deal of it. But ultimately, I don't think he's going to make us lose this match if we were to lose it.
Fair dues. And Brian, I don't think he was when Maguire, wrestling tackled Azpilicueta, but he was the referee when Maguire testicle kicked Michy Batshuayi at Stamford Bridge. So, it swings and roundabouts. We clean sheet, delict Bonucci. I mean, I appreciate you, official Nico, for tuning in, but you're going down tomorrow. Also, you're still using your old badge. Come to 2021 now. I'm taking a piss. Cheers for tuning in, mate. But let's finish it off with score predictions. Obviously, we had Gem's score prediction to 2-0. I bloody take it because obviously that puts us ahead of Juve. And then we just need to make sure we get the same result as them in the last game, which we will have the tougher game because I think you will play Malmo at home for them while we will play Zenit away, which Zenit away is obviously much more difficult. So, that's why also, again, tomorrow is important. But again, just to reiterate to everybody watching, all we need is a draw to guarantee qualifying for the knockout stages, if I'm not mistaken here. But obviously, if we win, we put ourselves in a good position to actually top the group. So, Charlie, I'll just stick with you. Score prediction. What do you reckon?
As well, I fancy us. I've fancied us most games this season, to be honest. But yeah, I mean, we might not keep a clean sheet, but I think we've definitely got enough about us. So I'll probably go a 2-1 win, and then it will go down to the last game whether we end up coming top or not. But to be perfectly honest, I'm not that fussed about coming top or not. It's kind of irrelevant. You've got to play all the best teams anyway. So what difference does it make if you play them last 16 or quarterfinals? So, I mean, yes, I think a 2-1 win, but ultimately top of the group, I'm not too fussed really.
Fair. Clutch, what about you? Do you think we're going to get that 2-goal win, or do you reckon it's going to go in a different way?
On my play predictor, I said 2-0, so I'm going to back my 2-0 here.
Fair enough. It's a tough one because as much as that's boring, because we've had 2-0s already, I feel like 2-0 is, in my head, the most likely result, in all honesty. Because do I think we're going to score 3 against Juve? No. The only way I could see that is if they get a bit desperate, if we take the lead, and then we can't just batter them. Not batter them is a bit harsh. You know, no one's ever going to batter Juve. They're too solid for that, I think. But then we can just surprise them with, like, you know, our quick attacks, and then just maybe then we can score 3. So that's a possibility. But I think in general, I think as much as it's boring, I do apologize, guys. I'm going to have to go with the 2-0 as well. And, you know, be positive and hope we get that 2-0 victory. But hey, in the end, maybe Juve bottle it against Malmo in the end. So whether we win 2-1, like Charlie said, or 2-0, like I said, as long as we beat Zenit, doesn't really matter. But like I said earlier already, I agree with Charlie. At the end of the day, you can get lucky if you top the group and you get a really easy opponent, but you can also get unlucky when you come second and get... Oh, sorry. You can get really lucky when you come second and get an easy opponent, but you can also get really unlucky when you top the group and get a really difficult opponent. It can go either way, and there's no way of knowing in advance, unfortunately. But I think, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to round it out here. Charlie, Clutch, both massively appreciate you for coming on. Shout out to both of them. Charlie's link to his YouTube channel is down in the description below. Of course, check out Clutch on Twitter as well. And again, shout out to Jem. His link is also down in the description, GNA TV. But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't already, please be sure to subscribe. Still over 100 of you watching, so big up to yourselves. Get subscribed if you haven't already. Always massively appreciated. We're on the road to 15,000 subscribers. And if you haven't already, before you leave here, smash that like button for me, because how many are we on? Nowhere near enough. Didn't tell you enough, I guess. But how many are we on? Let this thing just update. We're on 72, to be fair, so you're not doing too badly. But all of you, before you leave, just go down below, smash that like button for me. It really helps me out. Really appreciate it. But yeah, to be honest, guys, thank you guys for watching. Up the Chelsea, upwards and onwards, and hope we can get the dub against Juve tomorrow. And I'll see you next time.